But first, of course, our top story has to be the Israeli forces fighting Hamas militants in the south of the country, imposing a complete siege on Gaza, leaving the Strip with no electricity, food, fuel or water. This comes, of course, after the terrorist group staged an unprecedented strike on Israel at the weekend, the single deadliest attack in the history of the conflict, with the Israelis calling it their 9/11. Well, the number of dead has reached more than 1,200 and continues to grow, including more than 10 Brits who are feared either dead or missing and taken hostage to Gaza. The United States has sent warships and fighter jets to the region, with US President Joe Biden promising rock-solid and unwavering support for the Israelis against Hamas. Here in the UK, there's been widespread condemnation of pro-Palestinian protests in cities such as Birmingham and Manchester, where demonstrators have shouted Hamas slogans. While in the capital city, a kosher restaurant in Golders Green was vandalised, prompting the mayor, Sadiq Khan, to say, "There is no tolerance for hate in our city. I stand with Jewish Londoners today and always." Well, still joining me in the studio is Tom Slater, who's editor of Spiked Online. And also joining us for this section, I'm glad to say, is Tzipi Hotovely, who's the Israeli ambassador to the United Kingdom.
Julia.
Good afternoon to you. I wish we were speaking under happier circumstances. There's lots to talk about at home and here, and what's happening in Israel. I just want to ask, first of all, your reaction when you woke up on Saturday morning to what was happening, and your reaction to the devastating attacks that happened to Israel from Hamas.
Well, I was in Israel, so I just came back to London yesterday, and I was staying in bed 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30. The first alarm started, and when the second alarm started, it was a holiday, and it was a holy day for the Jewish people, and it was Shabbat, and I was telling my husband, my senses are saying this is not just a normal, sirens going on. And I opened the news and there was already a feeling of a war in the country. And all I can tell you, as someone that experienced many terror attacks in Israel, we're not talking about terror attack here. We are talking about massive war against brutality and barbarism that Hamas committed. And I want to say it in clear words. Hamas committed war crimes against Israeli children, against Israeli young girls, against the elderly. Think about this old woman with dementia that was attacked by those Hamas terrorists. Think about children being executed in front of their parents. Those videos going on in social media. I think people are saying those types of atrocities, this is something that the international community cannot accept. And this is why we get the backup today of the UK government. And I just walked out of a meeting with Foreign Secretary James Cleverly that came to the Israeli embassy today to show solidarity and to say the UK is here to support Israel, and we will support Israel to fight its battle to defend the people of Israel.
And we have seen clear statements of support from all of your Western allies. Again, Israel, it's a small point that gets ignored a lot, the only democratic state in the Middle East. Some of the footage that we have seen is unbelievably harrowing. We know we're looking at, in Israel, more than 700 dead, likely to rise, so many people seriously wounded.
By the way, most of them are young people.
Most people, 260 of those were people at that
from a
music festival.
Yeah. Think about people going to Bloomsbury here. Yeah. And also, people are comparing it to 9/11. So just give you the example. I was asking people here in the UK, what was your worst terror attack? And people were thinking about 7/7, people were thinking about the London Bridge attack and the Manchester Arena attack. All together, they don't come to this horrific number. And think about the proportions. Israel has the population of London. It's 9 million people. It's not 60 million. So think about 700 families being devastated and being totally destroyed from losing their young children, over 100 people being kidnapped by Hamas. And we're calling the international community to help Israel to fight its battle for the freedom and safety of its people.
And this complicates things more, doesn't it? 2 Brits are among those feared abducted, Americans too. We saw the student Noah, a young woman being grabbed onto a motorbike. Her boyfriend helped us to save her, saying, "Please don't kill me." We see elderly grandmothers. You mentioned someone with dementia, whole families, children, babies, harrowing scenes of a father on video saying, "Come back, you can have me, take me, let my children and my wife go." These are, impossible for most people to even comprehend this horror. Is the solution to this what has happened? Undoubtedly, a horrific terror attack by, call them what they are, a terrorist organisation, Hamas, on your country, on your fellow citizens. Is the right reaction, the correct reaction, the retaliation that we have seen with the mass bombing of Gaza, the siege, preventing people from getting fuel, water, electricity, food, telling people to flee in Gaza when there's nowhere for them to flee to. The borders are all closed. Israel is going to get a lot of criticism for that. Julia, isn't that exactly what Hamas wants you to do?
Julia, it's as simple and clear. This is dark and evil forces, Hamas terror organization prescribed here in the UK. We need to fight back. Now think about that. If 1,000 Americans would have killed in one day, and you would have seen rallies supporting the organization, the terror organization killing them, would that be acceptable? No. You would have said, no, we need to stand with all the countries that fight for freedom, for democratic countries like Israel, like the UK, like the US. We need to stand together strong and to make sure those atrocities won't be back. Now think about it. People were not safe in their home. Think about your own home. The place that people should feel safe. They walked from one home to another, from one living room to another, to people that basically have no way to protect themselves, to vulnerable people, to young families with young children. I mean, we just see the faces coming up of the people got slaughtered. And those are young families.
I think we all understand that.
What I'm trying to say, think about the case of London or Manchester being attacked.
I completely do.
People getting into your houses,
and I think everyone who is moral and sane does. However,
we need to
there's going to be criticism on the other side, which is that the Palestinians living in the Gaza Strip, the innocent elderly, the children, the women, the men who are not fighters, who are just trying to make a living, trying to get by, living in the Gaza Strip, the ones who are not supporting Hamas, the ones who are not fighting with Hamas, who have not gone door to door executing Israelis, they are going to be suffering. Whether their suffering extends as far as their home being bombed or them losing lives. We know already 700 plus Israelis, 500 plus people in Gaza, and that's another 2,700.
Julia.
No, let me finish. Do you not think that some people say, as much as they understand the need and the right of Israel to defend themselves, that you are playing into Hamas's hands and giving them exactly what they want?
Exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. Every country, the first obligation of a country and a government is to protect the people. Mm-hmm. If we are failing this duty, this holy duty of every single country, we are not going to.
How do you choose targets in Gaza?
We're not going to make the promise of never again after the Holocaust. Yeah. Israel has the duty to protect and defend its people. This is a defense war, and this is why this whole statement, I mean, the Israeli forces are very famous for sending alerts before we attack.
Yeah.
So
has that been happening in this case?
Absolutely.
So when an apartment building is razed to the ground, there has been a warning previously.
You know that this has been the case always, and Israel is always sending alerts. But if we're not going to understand, this is a game changer. This is not another military operation. This is a war. This is a war against that they started. Hamas started this war from the land, from the sea, from the air. 1,000 terrorists walked into our cities and walked from one living room to another to basically kill innocent people. And this is a reality no country can face. And the UK would have done the same. And we need the international community's support, and we receive it at the moment, but we need to get it as the war goes on. And I must say that people that think that a country cannot defend itself think what would have happened would have been the case for London and Manchester, for New York and other places in the world, this type of a military attack.
How does the number of hostages taken, we think possibly
over 100.
Over 100. And we don't know exactly who is. They're still trying to identify bodies as well. So I mean, this is a very complicated, complex situation. How does that complicate the military action that Israel is taking now? We've already had Hamas claiming that some of their hostages have been killed in airstrikes by Israel. What are the processes for trying to find those people, for rescuing those people, getting them out?
Well, there is a process that is very, very, very complicated, as you mentioned.
It's been done many times before.
No, never in the past we had such a massive kidnaps of civilians. And this is the case now. So we had in the past hijacks of airplanes. You know, Prime Minister Netanyahu's brother, Yoni Netanyahu, got killed when his unit made this very glorious military operation to rescue those people being hijacked with the plane. But at the moment, it's people being kidnapped to the Gaza Strip in a reality that most of them, we don't know what's their condition. Yeah. I know that there are children there, there are young women there, and I'm telling you the truth. It's going to take a time to identify the people. There are foreign citizens involved, so we work and we coordinate with the British authorities about British citizens that are involved. This is really, really tragic. And the fact there was also young people taken hostage and elderly people taken hostage. This is part of the tragedy. And we need to say to the international community now, this is your duty now to say, Hamas, release those kidnapped, because this is a war crime to do that. And they're committing serious war crimes against Israeli population, targeted, calculated and planned. And this is the time of Israel to defend its people.
What did you make of some reaction we saw on the streets of, again, it'd be a small minority of people, but celebrations by some people claiming to be supporting Palestine, Palestinian people. In London, we had marches in Manchester, in Birmingham, I think in Liverpool near the Labour Party conference as well. Some people saying this was a day to celebrate. After a massacre of Israelis. Others saying, they support, using the war cry, effectively, of Hamas, which is from the river to the sea, which by definition involves from the River Jordan to the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, means there is no Israel in between. A Palestinian land, the obliteration of Israel.
Pure anti-Semitism, this is pure anti-Semitism. When you're hearing this, in my opinion, a repulsive response to the killing of young children. I mean, no child in the world should be unprotected, and no child in the world should be slaughtered in front of his parents. And this is the reality we saw in Israel. So people that are backing up this barbaric behavior, they're missing something in their morality, understanding what is wrong and what is evil. And this is a pure evil that Israel is fighting at the moment. And anti-Semitism, people think Israel shouldn't exist, is there, and we're fighting it. We're fighting it because the Jewish state is there to stay, and the Jewish state is going to fight for the life of the Israeli people. And we are getting at the moment the 100% backup of the UK government. I really appreciate that. Downing Street was projected yesterday with the Israeli flag. That was absolutely a beautiful gesture. But they're helping us much more than, just by those symbolic gestures.
What did you make? I mean, again, we had the London Mayor Sadiq Khan saying, he would stand against this kind of anti-Semitism. We had a kosher restaurant in Golders Green in North London, very, very strong Jewish community there. I know it well. A kosher restaurant destroyed. Lots of fears of a rise in anti-Semitic attacks. I know that security has been stepped up at Jewish schools and community centres. I'm personally just ashamed that this is happening in 21st century Britain. I just cannot believe this is something that happens, but it is happening. What is the message you want to send out about that as the ambassador to this country?
We are working closely with the Met Police, with the Home Office, to make sure no Jew will be hurt. And the CST in this community is doing a tremendous, important job to protect the community institutions. And I'm sure that together with British authorities, the Jewish community will be protected. But it's not a secret. Everyone understands it's a sensitive time when Israel is in the war. But it's time for us to understand this barbarism that we've seen in the streets. This is the real face of our enemy. And it's not time for us to say Israel, should be... I don't know, some people are saying Israel shouldn't defend itself. I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah. No other country in the world will tolerate that.
Why do you think, I think I know the answer to this, why do you think that Israel is, we're told often, held to a higher standard than other countries? Why are there, for instance, going to be protests outside the Israeli embassy when you've been the victim of an attack? Why the same people? I often wonder why are they not protesting against Assad and his treatment of his people in Syria? Why are they not protesting against Putin and the invasion of Ukraine? Why are they not protesting against the treatment of the Uyghur people in China? And they never seem to protest against these people, but they uniquely find the actions of Israel to be morally reprehensible. What do you think motivates that?
Well, first of all, you're asking a very good question, and it should be here in the air, why Israel is holding into a different standard. But I think many people understand that this is a modern anti-Semitism. It's as simple as that. I know there is a new book called Israelophobia that is exactly discussing that, how basically standards that are for regular Western countries are not applied on Israel. But we know the truth, and the truth is Israel is a democracy. Israel respects human rights. Israel is a country that was attacked brutally in the last 48 hours, and Israel is in a war. And we are fighting to make sure No terror organization or any other country in the world, including Iran, will have the thoughts that Israel can be attacked in this brutality.
Ambassador, I really appreciate you joining us.